Well, one thing that I didn't think about much in the beginning, but I'm now very particular about, and that is what we were just talking about, harmonizing of the space. So, you know, music is this harmonic structure in which all the frequencies and the waves and stuff are all kind of like lining up in a harmonic, like kind of aligned way. And so I like that to be reflected in the space I'm working on. So, you know, generally it'll be like, you know, you'll have your speakers and, you know, you have this like triangle, you know, between the speakers. And then, you know, you've got your computer and your controllers and stuff like that. And I'll have an altar in the room as well. So that would be just, you know, a space where, you know, you put all kinds of like sentimental things and things which are kind of, you know, trigger your spiritual nature. You know, the idea of an altar is just meant to be like a sort of connection to the divine, you know. And so there's this idea of sacred space and profane space. I don't know if you heard about this. There was a book, I can't remember the author's name, but he talked about how a sacred space is a space which has a center in which everything is aligned and which there is a connection to the divine within the space. And that's why when anybody you know, if you're starting a new city or a town or whatever, the first thing they would do is build a temple or a church, because that centers the space. It makes the space sacred. It gives a center point which connects to God, which everything revolves around. And so within a studio setting or an alchemy lab or whatever, it's the same. It was an important part of an alchemy lab was the altar, you know, and an altar would have things which remind you of the eternal nature of the universe. So things like geometry and, you know, crystals and, you know, whatever, tarot cards, you know, whatever you want to put, you know, that kind of reminds you of that kind of transcendent nature of reality. So yeah, so having an altar, having everything tidy, having everything aligned, lined up, you know, having your room properly treated for sound reflections and so on. Very important. I mean, in the beginning, my room was a mess, you know. I'd be sitting on this computer with like ashtrays and like bottles and everything, you know, just like standard sort of, you know, young person studio. But now it's like, I make sure it's like immaculate before I go to work. So kind of like there's music and harmony all around me. And then I'm just like sort of channeling it in rather than just being a complete mess. You're trying to figure out how to make something harmonic and pure while you're surrounded by all this chaos and mess, and you've got all this stuff to do that you're not doing, you know. That's another one, yeah. Do what needs to be done. If you're trying to work on music, but you actually ought to be doing something else, you know, maybe, you know, doing something to help your parents, or, you know, doing some other kind of work that's, you know, going to let somebody down if you don't do it, then you should do that first. So, because you really want to be clearing yourself before you do music. You don't want to be sitting there doing music when you know you should be doing something else. Yeah, I find that actually blocks the creative process. So get everything done you need to do, harmonize the space, and then sit down, and then good to go.